Hi everyone, my name is Haley Shaw. I am the past chair for the Young Architects Forum, and we have Nate here, who's our 2022 chair. How many of you, for them, it's their first YAP event? Show of hands. Wow, that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming. Very quickly, I want to go over what YAP is. So YAP stands for the Young Architects Forum. It's a collaboration between AIA and the College of Fellows. And it was organized to discuss topics and provide like a platform for young architects and discuss topics that are most important to them. Over the last few years, we've really worked on what our mission is as YAP of Atlanta. And our mission is to provide an environment that promotes mentorship, networking, professional development, and community engagement. So over the last few years, we've developed personalized tracks for 3 of these categories. So our first category is community engagement, connect and chill, and then continuing education. So over the last 3-4 years, we've really developed these 3 tracks, and all of their events that we host really focus on one of these, and it really depends on what you want to kind of gain from YAP and your involvement in YAP. So you can pick what events you want to come to based on these 3 categories. And if you look at those posters in the back, we've added a 4th category this past year. We added a candid conversations category. Our candid conversations last year included AXP and CARB issues, just introduction to AXP and what emerging professionals really do in architecture industry. So SOAP is one of our continuing education events. We've done SOAP Women in Architecture. We've done SOAP with a structural focus. We've done SOAP Back to School, where we invited students and gave them the platform to present the things that they've worked on. We did the ARE study sessions last November, and our Benjamin Patterson is the chair for the ARE study sessions, and we're excited to announce that we have several sessions lined up this coming spring and summer. Our first one is April 9th, and we'll share more information about it. But these are really focused on helping emerging professionals get licensed. We've got our first one on the 9th, I believe, and then they're held twice every month. So we'll share more information about that, but that's really for people that are trying to get licensed and trying to just take the AREs. And then we hosted the Urban Fronts, which was our community engagement event for last year, where we went, we procured a wall at Madura in Reynoldstown, and we painted it with a mural that you can't really tell really well, but if you look at the final images of it, the mural showcases all the people from the community. There's legacy members, there's kids, and it celebrates Reynoldstown because it was their 150th anniversary. And we hosted this event on Juneteenth. So it's a really great way for us to give back. And as you can see, we had a lot of people show up. We weren't expecting that, but we had a lot of people show up, and we're hoping to continue engaging with our community because we think it's really important to give back and just be involved. So again, these are our 3 categories. If y'all ever want to know more about them, you can talk to Nate or myself. And then referring back to that poster, there is a little QR code at the bottom of it. It takes you to a poll, and we're trying to gather data about women in the industry and just culture in different firms, different types of firms. So if you could do that, I think that would be very helpful, and it would help us gather some data. Any questions? All right. I think there was an image of this space that you're in. We're really thankful for CDH for hosting us. They've been in this space for about 2 years. And also I want to introduce. Thank you for hosting us.
You're so welcome, and we're very excited to have everybody here. Thank you so much for coming to CDH. We have been in this space for almost exactly 2 years. March the 30th was our first day in this office where we relocated from our office in Tower Road. Hopefully none of you put your location into Google or Apple Maps and ended up there and had to reroute here, but we're glad that you're here. CDH was founded in 1977, so we celebrate our 45th anniversary this year, which is really exciting for us. It's been a tremendous legacy that was built by the founding partners, Bill Chegwin, Don Dorsey, and Chuck Holmes, and they still come into the office almost on a daily basis, and we love having them here. They're high contributors to the company, but more in a support role and bringing in work, doing business development, and then just offering us the encouragement that we all need on a daily basis. For those of you who do not know much about us, we are focused in 4 primary market sectors: health and wellness, which is Mary Lindman's studio, education and research, which I lead, but Corinne Croco, I don't know where she went, there she is a senior associate in the education studio. Worship and community, and I don't know, David's over there, but you can't see him right now, is our principal in charge for that. And then live work, which incorporates our senior living centers, some multifamily, some corporate light industrial work. So we're really excited about all the markets that we're in and the contributions that we make. And the reason we're in our markets is really to drive the success of the human condition. We improve lives through design, and that's what drives us on a daily basis. It's what brings us to work. It's what informs our decisions. It's what informs which clients we choose as well. So we allow that to really be what we are and who we are, and it also brings all of our values. I'm pointing at Cheryl Gould, who's our HR manager and a tremendous agent of change in the office. But I think that's about it. I will add, as the president and CEO of CDH, only 17% of women are in leadership in the architecture industry. So I'm really proud of that statistic, and that as a women-owned business with Mary and Regine and Corinne, that we are really changing that stat. CDH is a catalyst for that, and I hope that as each of you take this and listen to our great presenters this evening, that we can begin to really drive that in the architecture industry. So with that, I'm passing it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really great. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's really great to see everyone. We're really excited to have our 3 guests and leaders in the industry join us tonight. And they all have a diverse set of background and expertise, so we're looking forward to seeing all the presentations. So first up, we have Meredith Sparks, who's a licensed architect at CDH, studied interior design at the University of Georgia, and architecture at Georgia Tech. Meredith.
Hi everyone. So as he said, I have kind of a dual background between interiors and architecture, but I am a licensed architect. And I work both between our health and wellness studio here and our education and research. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of both projects. For today, I'm going to be presenting Tanner Health Pavilion in Carrollton, Georgia. It's one of our really community-driven projects that we're really proud of and how it turned out. So just a brief introduction to the project team. We had a lot of really strong female leaders for this project, and it was something that we were really proud of, both on the architecture side and with our GC. So for me, I was the project architect on the job, sorry. And then 2 of our owners, Regine Starnes and Corinne Croco, were the project management throughout. And then with the GC, Ray Lynn, we also had Curry Glanton, who was a really big influence on the project with the way she communicated between us, the owner, and all of the subcontractors. It was really a key component to making this project successful. But so we also worked with George and West for civil engineering, McVeigh and Mangum for structural, HPD was the MEP engineers, Threadgill and Associates was landscape, and HLG Studio for interiors.
Cool. So next up we have Kathryn, who's a graphic designer at Perkins and Will, works in the Brandon Environment Studio in interdisciplinary team, and works in research, brand strategy, graphic design, and interior architecture. So please welcome Kathryn.
Left and right, not up and down. Okay. Hey, so I guess just a quick overview and background for me. I fell into this industry. I went to school for graphic design, and then I have a background in exhibit design. That was, and then also signage and wayfinding. And so I really love working on the brand and environments team because we really get to be so interdisciplinary, and we work with architects, interiors. We're lucky enough to have a landscape team as well as our urban design and planning team in our office, among many others to mention. So it's really great to be able to work closely and just learn from them as I go. So today I'll be sharing a 20-year vision plan for Blue Heron Nature Preserve. It's a 30-acre. Oh, is that music? Cool.
Yeah, finally.
I wasn't planning on having background music. So how many of y'all have heard of Blue Heron Nature Trail or know that anyone? A few hands? Okay. It's like a hidden oasis in the middle of Buckhead. It's amazing. I didn't know about it before we started this project, so I highly suggest you guys go and check it out.
I would prefer that. Yeah. Video.
We could just roll with it. For the sake of time, we're rolling with the music, y'all. So yeah, it's huge. So just to give you some orientation, sorry for everyone watching, you might not be able to, I don't have a laser here, but you come down Roswell Road, Pikes Market is right here. But if you're coming down Roswell Road specifically and you're going for like you can kind of zoom right by it. I have to that I can show you. And then there's also some Bosser Drive and Lakewood Drive. What we developed for them is really it's a plan to help the board like visualize a more robust preserve, as well as sort of like give them a vision plan of key points that they can activate within the site while still respecting the integrity and the fact that it is a nature preserve. So we want to keep this space something to house nature as it exists currently, but still activate areas for new users. So this is just kind of like a very quick snapshot of what you see and housed right in the middle of Buckhead. It's amazing. You feel like you're miles outside of the city, but you're right next to everything. It's beautiful. And I should mention they have a very close tie with the arts. So every year they have an artist in residence, as well as rotating art exhibits, many murals on site. They have a really close tie to the arts community. A little Perkins and Will plug, I guess. We have social purpose programs that allow us to allot a certain amount of hours every year to work with nonprofit projects, which is really great. They're some of my favorite projects. I wish I got to work on more of them, but I've been lucky enough to touch a few in my 4 years there. And it's a really special way to kind of spend your time and shake up some of your day-to-day. And typically we get to work really closely with those clients on pretty small project teams, so it's pretty great. Shout out to my project team. So in 2020, we did a visual listening session. I was a little nervous, but we did it outside, socially distanced with masks on, and we all agreed that we wanted to be there in person. And we also we offered up a virtual session for anyone who wasn't comfortable with it, but most people were, and it made sense to have it on site in the preserve. Excuse me. So from that experience, we gleaned a lot of desired outcomes. I won't go through all of these, but basically, they are ideally want to become a regional urban ecology destination while also advancing their mission of education and modeling an ethos of conservation. So this was kind of our approach to the 20-year vision plan. We approached it through edges, nodes, and paths. So edges being these areas, these sort of dotted lines along the perimeter of the preserve, where it's kind of like your first impression of the preserve, your first interaction points, right? And then paths being, we'll go into more detail as we present, but these orange lines with the triangle 1 and 2 next to them that kind of connect you through wayfinding and different bridges and elements to the nodes. And the nodes are kind of these activation points within the preserve that either are already existing and we will enhance, or new activation points that we'll add in order to gain more traction. Again, an enlarged site plan. So to orient you, to the south of the plan is the Roswell Road entrance. And then you're backing up to neighborhoods up on the north side of the page. And then this is the building as it currently exists. So you turn in at number 1, follow that road, and then you're back in the parking, and that building exists. Everything in orange is something new that we're proposing. We did a survey during the first session in 2020, and this is a quote from one of the community surveys, and I just thought it captured the preserve so well. It's just, it's beauty preserved, it's beautiful. So I'm going to jump ahead. So this kind of gives you a view of what that entrance down Roswell Road looks like, and this is taken in the winter. And this is your viewpoint. So you can kind of see into the preserve, but you can imagine when everything is lush and green and overgrown, a lot of the plantings on the front side grow up to be upwards of 6 feet high. So it can be a little intimidating when you're walking down there, not really knowing what's behind there if you can't see into the site. And above that, those 2 black and white cars that are overlapping is a tiny little sign. So really there's not a ton of road presence when you're on the main road. You could pass by easily. So backing up to our gateway entrance proposal, everything in green is where our landscape team proposed updated landscaping with low plantings of 3 feet, no more than 3 feet. And we were kind of a little, I don't want to say hesitant to do that, but we wanted to respect the fact that it's a nature preserve, so they would all be native species. But it just seems like it needs to be more approachable and visible from the main front in order to get user interaction. We're also proposing some, and I'll get to this next, but all these orange lines along Roswell Road are sculptural elements in order to enhance what we're calling the gateway experience, as well as some bridges that you'll see later over some of the creeks where the pathway gets a little bit tricky. So they had recently undergone a new, had a new logo and a new brand identity developed through another firm. So we extracted kind of this profile of the Heron and took that as inspiration in order to design some ribbon-like structures that would have lighting, enamel paint finish, and potentially a bench or maybe a planter. And it could also serve as a donor element. So we see these as undulating structures that culminate at the entrance. And they would sort of, I think I have a slide. Yes, this is a rendering by my teammate Julio. He's really awesome. You can kind of see that they undulate in size as you're following down Roswell Road and culminate at the beginning with a larger sign at the entrance. And it makes sense for them. You wouldn't necessarily think artwork and nature preserve, but in our opinion, it makes sense because they do have such deep ties with the art community. So juxtaposing the nature with this, bright green structural, like sort of sculptural elements makes sense. And it grabs your attention as like a very iconic vehicular wayfinding element. These are some of the planting details, again, less than 3 feet high. They already have beautiful plantings, but they just need to, we're proposing, not they need to, they can do what they want. But we're proposing that they stick with some lower planting for visibility. Okay, pause. Isn't that just nice? Doesn't it just make you want to go there? It's beautiful. Okay, so the lantern. Well, guess we're going ahead. In the top right is their existing building. And then you can see that we've proposed to sort of insert this flowing lantern glazing through the middle that really connects the building, and it connects the front where you park at the entrance with the trails all the way through the wetlands that are in the back of the building. And so it also helps with wayfinding, because honestly, when you first pull up, it's kind of, because of all the pathways, it's a little unclear where the main entrance is. So we wanted to help with that too, because apparently they've had visitors come and just not really exactly be sure where to go. And they do host, I should mention that they do have educational programs and daycares and summer camps, as well as the Amphibian Foundation and the Atlanta Audubon Society are here as well. So wayfinding is obviously key. And at the bottom, that's just some inspirational imagery. So for the discovery deck, as you can see, so this would be the lantern right below number 3, that horizontal is the lantern, and everything in orange, we're kind of transitioning and talking about that discovery deck. But these angular decks go over this wetland that they have. And currently you can observe the wetland from the perimeter, but you can't really interact with it. And the deck really needs some renovation. It needs a little bit of love. So we are proposing extending the deck and also adding these discovery deck walkways as well, to kind of open up the viewing to pedestrian traffic to really let you interact with the landscape. Ideally, they would be angular in design. That would also support their ethos of conservation, because it would have less construction waste than a more like curvilinear design for the pathways. And we have a few proposed terraces that could either incorporate themselves into the existing trees, around existing trees and plantings for terraced, with terrace stairs where they could host events. This could also generate income, I should mention, because again, part of this, it's a vision plan. It's something that we are hoping to develop and work with them down the road and help them kind of pick and choose what they want to develop, but also to drive funding and just to get people to see how visionary Blue Heron can be, and its and sort of how it could impact the community. So they could also rent this out for events, including that main lobby area. They really don't have a space that is conducive to renting areas out as well, but with the lantern and the deck, they could generate funding that way as well. This is just a quick floor plan. You can see the vertical orange is where we're proposing the lantern. We would pretty much keep their functioning as it is, with support, educate, and collaborate. That's kind of how they're functioning internally now. And then the deck could really encompass user needs internally and externally. Second floor, we are keeping the floor plan pretty much the same, but we're proposing sort of moving the pathway to the north and then having a mezzanine area on the second floor with a railing that can be open for classes or events. There are a lot of these in the plan, but for the sake of timing, I kind of took them out. But this is one example of a wayfinding, what I would call a wayfinding pinch point that we addressed with them as well. I know the few of you that have said you've been to Blue Heron, you might have noticed where a point on the trail, it drops you off. If you see at number 4, the trail kind of drops you off onto Roswell Road, and it's pretty confusing, and you don't really know where you're going. So you either kind of have to just keep walking down the road to the entrance, or turn around and backtrack and find your way back. And they do provide site maps and things on site, but it's a pretty confusing point in the trail. So we're proposing that they do a bridge over Nancy Creek. And that would also give them a branding and advertising opportunity, honestly, from Roswell Road at level 2, where a bridge goes over Nancy Creek from the street. And you, depending on how fast you're going, you might see it if you're in your car. You definitely see it if you're walking. Moving on to the community gardens. They have a lot of existing community gardens, and they also, they have the front area near number 3. They have a program that feeds unhoused people in Midtown, which is really great. So we're proposing expanding their community garden. It's pretty competitive, and so it's a good way for them to generate revenue. And then we would also repair their cistern that they have for rainwater collection as well. And again, this is a connection to Roswell Road as well. And you can see we have the herons kind of in orange along Roswell Road continuing down. And finally, we have the Field Research Center. So you can see in the top right, this is an existing garage that they have. The Amphibian Foundation and the Atlanta Audubon Society both conduct research and observations in this facility and in this area now. There's mesocosms. You can kind of see the circular, there you go, there's a label. They have some mesocosms, which are for some endangered species of salamander, I believe, that they're helping with breeding efforts for. It's actually pretty cool. You can kind of see them and walk up to it. But we would want to clean up the pathways around them and maybe provide some interpretive signage in order to let trail users know, hey, what's going on over here? What are these big barrels? As well as we would have to do a survey to see if we could keep the garage, but we would ideally keep it and extend the footprint, add spaces for both indoor and outdoor labs and education, and then also an area that they could rent for event space as well. But really, this is more to connect back to the science community. The event space would be more at the main building. I mean, it could be used either way, but we see this as really anchoring them as an urban ecology destination for the area. And then we would also, they have solar panels that are already on site, so we would incorporate and expand on that, and then rehab their existing gardens. They have beautiful gardens in the back. We would just kind of want to rehab those. So that's it. If you're interested in visiting, I highly suggest you go, and the website is also there as well.
Great. So yeah, we can open it up for questions.
Did you guys give any thought to how to, construction's messy and dirty, how to preserve the wetlands and those things during the construction phase, or is that something that you would kind of dive into further along when there was approval? Or
honestly, it's something that we would get into further along. Somebody else on my team might be able to give you a more detailed answer, but at this point, we've submitted this to the board and reviewed it with them. And we're hoping to continue our work with them this year and see what kind of funding they get and how they'd like to move forward. And that's probably when we would address more specifics.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is just about the field of branded environments and sort of how
Yeah.
you see what sort of your interpretation of it is. And then along with, in this project, sort of like, yeah, what was your role and how that differed from maybe your training as a graphic designer, or how you use the graphic design, education.
Right. So branded environments, I think sometimes we need to take a look at the word brand, right? Because it's more than a logo, it's more than an image. It's your mission, vision, and values, and what makes you a differentiator for your users, right? What's drawing people in? What do you want to communicate to people? So I guess that's the first thing. I think sometimes that word can throw people off. They're like, what is that? Brand environments. And I mean, we touch everything from signage and wayfinding and ADA signage all the way up to interior graphics, exterior facades. I mean, just wherever people want to pull us in. A lot of times we'll get involved very early in a project for a pursuit and then kind of go on hold until architects and interiors are a little further along. But it's nice to be able to layer in our input to kind of shape the interiors and exteriors as well along the way, and sort of pinpoint, when you can pinpoint those key brand moments or wayfinding moments from the beginning, it feels so much more integrated into the design rather than having it be an afterthought. That's kind of at least how I see it. What was your second question? Oh, this project?
Yeah,
Well, I took care of the deck. So, I mean, and then also, I mean, I know that's funny, but like, you gotta put there, we all know we do so many decks. And then also the brand integration, wayfinding pinch points. We all walk the site together. So I only highlighted one of those, but there's a lot of other key areas and bridges that we're adding in to sort of highlight those pinch points or confusing areas, as well as just how we all worked together really collaboratively. My coworker Jared was pretty influential on the ribbons in the front, but making sure that is like tastefully done, but also fits with their brand and feels on par.
So we our Noma had an event for women in architecture, and Melody Hartgrove spoke.
She's awesome.
Yeah, and I remember she's the executive director of Blue Heron.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just say, like, along the lines of like women in architecture. What was it like working with her, you know, and having someone who's kind of like on the client side of things and also an FAIA person? You know, how was it to work with her? Did you get the chance to work with her?
Yes, I did. Yeah, from early visioning. She's awesome. She's so bubbly and supportive. She was really open to our new ideas, but also was really strong in the foundation of Blue Heron and the message that they wanted to have moving forward. So it was really nice to work with a client that knew what they stood for and knew what they wanted, but also was open to a new vision. It was like pretty inspiring.
I guess I have like one design question
Mhm.
for like an interdisciplinary project like this.
Yes.
So many design teams have to involve architects, graphic design, interior, I guess landscaping as well.
Yeah.
So from a design team standpoint or even project management standpoint, and as a design team member, what's the perspective, you know, like who's taking a leading role, I mean, who's supporting, and can you go a little in depth of this process, the design process, like who's had good input first, or you know, just like a priority wise?
Yeah.
That kind of.
So we definitely had Dan James was the one who kind of brought this SRI in for us, and he has a good relationship with Melody, so he was kind of the client point of contact. I will say for this one, I mean, this might sound like a cop out, but it was really collaborative. I think because it was so early and schematic and so high level and visionary, right? Like it's a 20-year vision plan. We can do anything. It was pretty collaborative on this particular project. But I think we all play to our strong suits, and we kind of know where to lean on everyone's strengths, but also weigh in and respect everyone else's feedback. So.
Thank you so much.
One more.
last
Sorry.
question. No, no,
So, like you said, this is a 20-year vision plan.
Yes.
Was there any discussion? There are a lot of different interventions that you guys have proposed.
Yeah.
Like, was there any discussion about phasing or construction costs of each of these yet, or is that something that's going to happen later on?
So I do believe that Dan sent out like ballpark construction costs to Melody to keep in mind. What those are, I'm not sure off the top of my head. We did talk about phasing, and this is really, they are not tied to implementing any of this, all of this, some of this, but we're hoping that they do. I think that they like it and they responded well to it. So I think the phasing is really up to the client, and that's kind of where we are with them, is hoping to meet with them this year and see what of this they feel like is the most important for them to implement and how we move forward together as a team.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Awesome. I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Emily, who's a licensed architect at Square Feet Studio and a senior project manager at Square Feet Studio, and studied architecture at RPI Institute with a minor in studio arts. So, welcome, Emily. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to first highlight, so both the projects I'm going to be talking about today are on the west side of Atlanta. So if you guys are in hellville traffic, I'm sorry, I had something to do with that. This is a rendering for Star Metals, what the client is calling the district. So both the residential building and the office building are constructed and complete right now. And then the building in the back is the hotel building that will hopefully be online in a later date. So yeah, so I'm going to start off with Star Metals residences. So Howell Mill used to have a scrapyard that was here. That's where Star Metals got its name. Oh, you guys might have seen the old train caboose that was on its corner for many, many years. So we worked with the developer group, Alan Morris. They are they had their headquartered office in Miami, and they had ties to Georgia Tech and to Atlanta from back in the day. So they really wanted to come back to Atlanta on the west side and make a statement. And so we worked with Dwell Design, who was the local architect, and Oppenheim Design, who was the overall design vision for the exterior along the process from early days when we started the project in 2017 to when it was complete in 2020. And so our role in the project was the interior architecture, that we focused on the amenity spaces that, you know, people, the first touch points on the project. So the lobby, the F&B, the unit finishes, and then the amenity space on the upper level. So I just wanted to highlight a little here in the aerial image. You'll see this. It's a pretty hefty piece of architecture. We, from a standpoint of, our design, our role in the project, we're the interior folks trying to make sure that it's of human scale, that it's tangible, that it's not oppressive. So we wanted to speak to a lot of the exterior language, but then soften it and help give it more of that human scale. So from the exterior standpoint, it's all corrugated metal. And this is just a detail in the lobby where we pulled in, we actually brought in scalloped plaster that was meant to emulate that corrugated texture. We have a lot of mixed metals on the project, a lot of fun leathers and details that I'll be walking through. So as we started this project, we were kind of given this front section to work with, and we sketched around the different programs that you see in any of these, residential units, amenities. So you've got, your lobby, your leasing, your mailroom, your parcel room. The client already knew from the get-go they wanted to have a food and beverage component that would activate the lobby. So they were thinking about successful hospitality spaces, like successful hotels, and that you go to in New York. So you've got Stumptown Coffee that's right off the Ace Hotel lobby. So how can we bring this and elevate the multifamily industry? And pet spa, and then, but at the end of the day, we wanted to, again, kind of soften the architecture. So you'll see that where this red dash line is, we were playing with the areas where we carved out a front porch and where we had a double space to work with. At the end of the day, the client kind of picked a scheme that was sort of a blend between these two. And so there we go. So this is a couple of views looking at that front porch area. I thought it was really funny, Meredith, you mentioned that you guys have one on your project as well. So I was like, must be an architecture term. But we really embraced the idea of Atlanta's, seasonable great weather and having a place to sit and have coffee or work outside. We designed everything you see here, the furniture, the plants. We worked soup to nuts with all of that, the accessories. This is a custom cast concrete sectional so that it wouldn't go walking away, that we worked with Mike with Killer Creek, a local Atlanta guy, for that piece. And we were just really proud of how this space came out and how inviting it makes the entry, and also helps to differentiate it as you're driving around Brady Curve. What you see in the background there is the lobby space with the double height, and we designed a steel rail feature that we worked with David Adams, who's also another local steel fabricator on, that was meant to tie back to the rail yards that are right across Brady, the Inman rail yards, where all of the lines from the southeast are converging to get through the city. And so looking at a little bit more detail on the plan and how it's come together. So this is the front porch, the double height area in the lobby. This is the receptionist or the security guard with the leasing tucked behind. So it's all very out of your way. So when you come into the space, your first impression is soft seating, hospitality moments, and then you have your F&B component, which I'll get into in a second here, that activates the lobby. So it all feels very open. We had a big metal gate that that opens and closes off that area. And then one of our secret features is we call it the Sunken living room, which is actually this lounge space that's nestled into the mailroom, because a lot of times mailrooms are kind of like, just a requirement. Oh, we need this because we need residents to get mail, but we wanted to make it somewhere people would actually want to come and sit. So we'll show you that in a second here. So I dug through when the project started, 2017. This was an initial sketch that we presented for one of our first concept presentations that showed the rail feature. It was something that from the very beginning, we wanted to get the client team to just really weigh in on and get excited about. And you can see the niche banquettes behind have always been a part of the scheme as well. We wanted to have places where you felt protected and where you could sit and work for a while and not feel like you were in the middle of a lobby. So as this has progressed through the design process with the rendering and then the reality of the fixture, obviously we love how it came out today. The texture, the exposed rivets, all of that was stuff that David brought to the table, and that he really helped bring it to life. And you can see the kind of variations of light fixtures, but in furniture. But at the end of the day, the architectural elements have stayed consistent. Similarly, so with the sunken living room in the library in the mail area, we always had that idea. It was actually in a different location when we started the project, and then it since has shifted into the center of the space. So you can see in these first two images here how that kind of comes together. We have a double-sided fireplace. We have books, accessories. We hand selected and curated all of those as well. So there's books from Atlanta. There's books about plants. There's books about fashion, architecture, anything of interest. We actually got a pottery, a local pottery, Charlotte Smith. She did some pieces for the accessorized walls. So we really like to make sure that we're bringing in the local element here, that we're not just buying things from CV2, that we're highlighting Atlanta's many wonderful artisans that we have. And then on the other side of this wall here, you'll see that's the food and beverage component, but we did want to bring in natural light into this space as it was tucked away, so we chose to have glass there as well. So these are just some other details for the lobby. So we talked about the banquettes and the scalloped plaster. The soffit overhead is a Corten, so it'll liven up over the years. So the project will patina as it gets older. The reception desk, we worked with Skylar Morgan Furniture Design. They're also on the west side. This was a riff off of one of their standard pieces. Each one of these is hand cut, and so we just really like to keep telling the story over and over, that there's a lot of handcraft and thought that you see in these spaces. So speaking about the lobby, so Prevail Union, this is the really teeny little coffee shop that has come to really take over the whole lobby and activate it to today. And we worked with Wade, who is the owner of Prevail and out of Montgomery, and as they wanted to come back to Atlanta, they had a connection with the developer, and we helped him lay out the space. The very unique form is based exactly off how the barista wants to work and function, and so a lot of what we do is just making sure that it's functional first, and then we layer in the design elements. Their branding, they actually had a cup that was this blue color with these lines on it, and so we wanted to just make a big branding moment for them, and double down and tile these walls, do the tiled retail niches, and then we had someone come and paint that on. So floor plan here, as you can see, it's pretty small. This is the operable closure for when they're not in operation. This little corner piece right here has become one of the really great sought after tables in the lobby. It has drapery that you can shut it off, so it kind of becomes a little PDR moment. And then they have a small areas for retail as well that you can see here. So it's just a couple more shots of Prevail. And we carried the walnut from the mailroom into here. So we have some rich finishes, consistency with the black and steel accents. But then this area really packs a lot of more color and excitement into the lobby itself. So then as we go upstairs, so you'll just come up the elevator and go up to level 9, which is the rooftop level, the amenity level here. So it's really interesting because we designed this project before COVID, and then COVID happened, and while we were in construction, and everyone was like, I think the client team was like, oh, did we oversize this? Did we do too, it's a lot of amenity space, when a lot of the trends in multifamily were, we're not going to invest in amenity spaces anymore. Nobody uses the club room. Come COVID, everybody's using your public spaces because they don't want to work from home. They want somewhere else to work. So this has actually kind of become like a WeWork for the residents in a sense. And then obviously there's the functions like the fitness and the pool, bocce. We work with Site Solutions with the layout here. But when we started the project, there were actually 2 studio units that were right here, and we convinced the client to get rid of them to create a viewing deck, which happened to work out really well in their favor. You'll see in a couple of slides. So some views inside that clubroom space I was just talking about. We have beer on draft here, so that we integrated that system quite discreetly, I would say. There's some kegs back behind that wall. The tables are custom, the bar stools are custom. The furnishings that you see here, we were able to work with Dwell very hand in hand to massage this space. When we were given it, it was just 16-foot ceilings, which are like, oh, that's beautiful, but again, we're so like, what does that really feel like? Well, let's slope it down to 12 and like have a little bit more of a scaled relationship for the, you know, the people in the space, and it just creates an even more dramatic view out. And then again, here's the procession of the design process. So 2017, we always had this idea of having these pivot doors. It's like we like to call the poor man's nano wall, but a way of like opening up the wall and creating creating natural you know, natural air and elements to come through the space, but on a budget. And so that today it's been really successful, and we also have those down in the lobby space. So you can see in the image here that, you know, we have all these layers. We have the drapery, we have the greenery, we have the cabanas, we have greenery even further on. So we're really working with these layers of tactile elements to create a really nice hospitable place. A couple more details here. I love this shot in particular. I feel like this could be in like a residential home magazine. So we were really proud of how it came out, and we really just wanted to take the conceptions of multifamily and just like, we'll knock it out, you know. So this is a rendering of what the pool deck was supposed to look, or, you know, in theory would look like. And this is some images of it today. And so, as I was saying, these used to be areas where we'd have 2 studio units, and we you know, when we got into the space where we're framing it, we're like, there's a perfect view to Mercedes-Benz. So, you know, it kind of like, when they do the leasing tour, I think they pretend like they planned that. I'm like, that was an accident. But it worked out. It worked out. And then they wanted to layer in just elements of fun, whimsy, and we have the neon sign there. And then on the back side of that is the fire pit area, where we have a custom outdoor banquette that's velvet outside. Everyone's like, you're risky, but no, it holds up. So yeah, just really trying to create like an area that feels like these residents are staying at a hotel. And so another project I wanted to highlight today, just because I knew we would have a handful of folks here, any Georgia Tech grads in the group? All right, so we've got a bunch. So you guys are probably familiar with the Reck. Just for those of you who don't know, it is Georgia Tech's mascot. It's a 1930s Ford Model A sport coupe that has been managed by the student rec club for its entirety. So it's kind of like a working, living, you know, engineering feat. And each year they have 1 driver. And so we have been working with the Georgia Tech team to design its permanent home on campus to create a landmark for it to live. And this is going to be a working garage and a display pavilion. This is just an initial sketch that my coworker Blake, who's here today, did for the competition to win it. So we were up against a handful of larger firms. Like, notably, we were probably the smallest, but we really won them over with the local Georgia Tech pride. So part of this process, we did research. We went to their current space. We figured out what's working in their current garage, which is nothing because it's kind of hidden on campus, and you can see they have like no space to work. We inventoried everything that's in there. We talked to the rec club on a multi-day basis for, you know, six months probably. And then we had another Georgia Tech grad who works at the Porsche Center that took us to the Porsche facility, where we can look at the state-of-the-art facilities and say, oh wow, we have all these tools at our, you know, disposal, so this is great. And then once we felt like we were getting a pretty good locked-in plan, we actually coned it out on the field and tested it out. We had the driver and the past driver tested out multiple times to make sure they were comfortable with the turning radiuses. And that was a really big, you know, point of contention along the process, because at one point we had too much paving and the drivers were like, well, we need that to make the turn. And so we kind of had to work through some solutions there to make sure that the site work was up to Georgia Tech standards. So where it is today for, we just broke ground, so pretty soon this will pop up. But this is Tech Green right here. This axis that you see right here is Atlantic Drive. The new student center is labels 2 and 3, and we are just right at the corner here on Long First Drive. So we'll be a little jewel box to capture attention, and then have a nice lawn plaza area for the team and the rec club to use. So looking at a little bit of the plan here. So this is Atlantic, as I mentioned, coming down here. We have back of house storage spaces. So we have a closet that's dedicated for Big Buzz, which is the inflatable yellow jacket. As some of you may know, he's that big. We have a display for memorabilia, storage for the Reck team, and then mechanical and plumbing. This that you see right here, number 1, that's the vehicle lift, so that they can perform maintenance and they don't have to like crawl underneath it anymore. A little workbench is number 5. And then the turntable, which was a later addition, it was to help so that the car could come in directly from Atlantic and not have to drive all the way around and make like larger turns. So that was an effort to minimize the previous pavings that we were showing before. On either side, we have 20-foot garage doors, and we have our lovely donor recognition. We can't forget to shout out a single donor, Miss Wallace. So she was very generous. She did it in the honor of her late husband, who is a fan of the car, and a Georgia Tech grad as well. So a section through there, and just seeing the scale of it, it's a small building. It's about 1,000 square feet. The roof was a constant design element that we really wanted to hold strong, was creating this element of that knife edge profile. So we actually integrated a clear story all around that, so that we could highlight that and let that sort of float off the plane a little bit more. This is the new student center here. And then as we were working through the design constraints, we overlaid all the mechanical systems. So how do the sprinklers work? Where's the air supply, the lighting, exhaust, roof drainage, and then all of them kind of combined. But we did, we were trying to create get everything to fit within a really tight plenum space because the car goes on the lift. So we had really challenging constraints there. And then at the end of the day, at one point we were showing this as like maybe it was a perforated screen, and we decided, let's just make it clear. Let's, pipe all of those conduits that we need to do, like the pipes of the car, and have that just really be thoughtful and cleanly coordinated. So this is just a rendering, kind of looking at the corner here with the door open. So the team will be able to, they'll wash the car out front. So it'll be a fun event for everybody on campus. And they'll let a lot of people come into the garage and have it be more open and public facing than it is now. And then at night, when it's just on display, just kind of shining like that. So I wanted to just shout out to my team, Blake, Kate, and John. We just did our groundbreaking the other day. We had some fake dirt. That was fun. But the Reck was out and everyone had a good time. And then as that transitions into our square feet studio, obviously the topic of debate today, or not debate, but women in architecture. So I've always found that square feet, we've been kind of we're similar to CDH. We're a predominantly female firm, and we are a mixed discipline with about 50% architecture, and then we have interior design, urban planning, and operations and support. One thing Nate and I worked, briefly together. He worked at our office for a short period of time, and there was a story he wanted me to say today, so I'm going to share it. But no, it's just about, being a young leader or a young woman in the industry, a young blonde in the industry. Sometimes you're like, okay, how can I get taken seriously? And eliminate the men. Just go to the interview with just a female powerhouse team, and you'd be surprised. They have no choice but to respect you and to treat you with dignity, and to not to just oh, okay, well, what does John think? I'm calling out John because this is the example, but he sent myself and our operations director Maggie to a job interview, and the client, I think at first was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. It's just 2 young women, but we had such a great conversation. We pretty much won the project on the spot. And the client said to us, that it was part of the reason why we got the project, because he really liked that our firm leader trusted and believed in the talent that's doing the project, that's in the weeds on the day-to-day. And so, society sometimes has a bad habit of, kind of thinking men have authority and sort of defaulting to that. So if you just go on your own, sky's the limit. So yeah, so I think we wanted to just talk a little bit more about that. But before I do, does anyone have any questions about the projects I shared? I know I went a little quick.
Yeah, that was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really great. So we're gonna go into transition into panel discussion where anyone can ask questions. And yeah, should I start off with a question?
Sure. Go for it.
All right, so yeah, I mean, part of today's event is about an opportunity to talk and discuss about the culture of architecture and sort of the state where we're at now, and kind of an opportunity because there's lots of firms here to kind of connect the dots on that. So I was just curious if you could identify certain aspects that you think you could still improve on in the culture of architecture.
A lot of aspects. Well, Kathryn and I were having a conversation before the panel started about, she was like, you're doing 2 projects? And I was like, well, yeah, because like, I think I have a little bit of not a stigma, but I was like, you know, speaking about it being a woman in architecture, and the first project I presented, we were the interior architect, and I really wanted to make sure that I still had an architecture project to speak to, because I think a lot of times when you work at an industry that does a lot of both, which is beautiful, that's the goal, right, is to have it really integrated, but a lot of women can get kind of, oh, you do the interiors, like naturally there's just a lot of like, that happens in the industry, and it might just be, oh, maybe women are better at it, or we're more detail oriented or something, but I think that there's a lot of tendencies to have that division between male and female in architecture and interiors, and we're constantly trying to make sure that at Square Feet that we're not putting anyone in those boxes, and that we're all able to try to do different things, but it's challenging.
I've run into that myself going into meetings where it's all males and I'm the only female there, and I had someone come in late and sit next to me, and they're like, he leans over and whispers to me, oh, are you the interior designer? And I couldn't really say much because I do have an interiors background, so technically yes, but I kind of paused for a second long enough to where he goes, oh, or architect? And I just kind of politely nodded and smiled. I was like, yeah. But there definitely is a stigma of like male architect, female interior designer, and I've worked with fabulous male interior designers before too. So I think the industry is taking a shift on those roles, which is a good thing. But I think it's definitely going to take time, and you walk in and you definitely have to make your presence and your knowledge known right off the bat. I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like CH is a woman-owned firm. I don't know, Square Feet?
John and Vivian, but I think Vivian has more stakeholdership.
20%, I'm 49%.
Okay. What I'm getting at is like when it comes to getting jobs, and I guess this would just be for CH, but being a certified woman-owned firm, you bring certain tax incentives to the table. Is that a big thing for y'all getting the work you get?
If you can answer that.
So we only became women-owned at the end of 2020. So we're in the process of becoming a nationally certified WBE. It's not recognized in the state of Georgia. State of Georgia does not recognize WBE. They don't have anything for women.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. They have MBE and small business, but they don't have WBE. So we're pursuing the national. That said, yes, it does put us in a position where we are more tax advantageous for companies to partner with, or for government work, which is really the impetus for us to begin to move in that direction.
I think it does matter to clients. So like,
it does matter to clients. I will tell you that as soon as we started publicizing that transition, clients we have and prospective clients are like, they love that. They love the idea of partnering with companies like ourselves. They love the idea of working with women in leadership. So it's been a huge thing for us in the last, what, we've been talking about year. It's been tremendous.
Like if you even think of know-how too, you talked about them, like what is the percentage of under 2% or something that they're represented?
Oh, yeah, it's more woefully inaccurate.
Comment? All right. Well, I want to thank our panelists for being here today. I just want to say I appreciate everything you guys are doing for the profession. I want to thank CDH for their support. It's really, in this age of COVID and just everyone being so hybrid, it's really hard to find support in venues or sponsorships, so we appreciate your support. And to wrap that up, I just want to highlight a few of our upcoming events for this year. We have a summer social that's on the books for July. The last one we had was 2 years ago at J.E. Dunn, and it was a huge success. We had more than 100 people sign up and show up. So hoping to do something at a similar scale and just get everyone together. And this social specifically is focused on emerging professionals, but not just architecture. We want to pull together contractors and engineers and really give the young architects or the emerging professionals a space for them to converse with each other. So that's kind of our focus for this summer social. And then our big series of events, I guess, would be the ARE study sessions. They're going to kick off April 9th. Like I said, there's 2 sessions every month. Our first one is going to be on a Saturday from noon to 4. Looking at Benjamin over there, he's been leading this entire session, the series. But our first one is on a Saturday. The NCARB VP will be there to kind of talk to you about licensure in the AREs. Lunch will be provided. We're at an awesome space. Corporate Environments is hosting us for several of these sessions. So if you're getting licensed or in the process or just signed up for AXP, make sure you go ahead and attend those events. And to kind of wrap it up, these videos that will be available on demand. And a lot of our virtual events that we've held in the last 2 years will also be available on demand if you guys need access to those. So you can reach us at our YAC email or reach out to Chris. He's to be more than happy to help us. But if there aren't any questions, I encourage everyone to write down some of their thoughts or just maybe just vote if you're interested in a certain event. Maybe put a star by it.
Here, so that's a public channel that anyone can join. We post jobs, notifications. You can post jobs if you're hiring, and it's really supposed to be meant as a public channel that you can all participate in. So we welcome you to join that, and then we'll also share our results with the poll.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate support.